Just a second. Okay, now floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. So welcome to the evening session. Our speaker is Meyra Terzi, a 23-year-old third grade student at Çanakkale 18 Mart University, the university I'm teaching. So I'm very proud to be presenting Meyra here, whom I taught in the Australian literature class. She's also a second-year student at Media and Communication Studies at Anadolu University. I didn't know that, so I'll note this. She lives in Izmir, and she's interested in books, writing, and wellness. The title of her presentation today is A Culture Based on Dreams, the Significance of Dreams and Dreamtime Stories in Aboriginal Culture. I'm very interested to listen to your presentation. The floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Azar Hocam. Like Azar says that, my topic is A Culture Based on Dreams, the Significance of Dreams and Dreamtime Stories in Aboriginal Culture. Without further ado, let's move on to my presentation. Here is my content. I'm going to start with the history of Aboriginal indigenous people, and then I will move on to the definition of dreaming in Aboriginal culture. Later on, I will focus on the story of the rainbow serpent, the story of the Bayame and the first Meyra woman, the story of the sun, moon, and eclipses. And later on, I will focus on dreamtime stories, and then I will end my presentation. I hope you can bear with me till the end. History of Aboriginal indigenous people. Aboriginal people have been in Australia for between 50,000 and 120,000 years. They were hunter-gatherer people who had adapted well to the environment. There were between 300,000 to 950,000 Aboriginal people living in Australia when the British arrived in 1788. At that time, there were approximately 250 distinct language groups and 500 dialects. Aboriginal people lived in small family groups and were semi-nomadic, with each family group living in a defined territory, systematically moving across a defined area. Following seasonal changes, groups had their own distinct history and culture. At certain times, family groups would come together for social, ceremonial, and trade purposes. Relationships within groups predetermined categories of responsibilities and obligations to the group and to the family. Aboriginal people built semi-permanent dwellings as a nomadic society. Emphasis was on relationships to family, group, and country, rather than the development of an agrarian society. Being semi-nomadic meant that Aboriginal people were also relatively non-materialistic. Greater emphasis was placed on the social, religious, and spiritual activities. The environment was controlled by spiritual rather than physical means, and religion was deeply tied to the country. According to Aboriginal beliefs, the physical environment of each local area was created and shaped by the actions of the spiritual ancestors who traveled across the landscape. Living and non-living things existed as a consequence of the actions of dreaming ancestors. And the last thing is they have the land owns us perspective, which means that they don't have any censorship on land, although they believe that land owns them. Other topic is the definition of dreaming in Aboriginal culture. The word Jukurpa, translated to English as dreaming and the dream time. The dreaming embraces time, past, present, and the future, a substantively different concept from populist characterizations, portraying it as timeless. As a religion grounded in the land itself, it incorporates creation and other land-based narratives, social processes, including kinship regulations, morality, and ethics. This complex concept informs people's economic, cognitive, affective, and spiritual lives. It is an introduction to the world for Aboriginal people. Dreams founded upon the actions of dreaming ancestors, creator beings believed responsible for bringing into being localized geographical features, landforms such as waterholes and springs, differ across the length and breadth of Australia. So they also believed that every geographical object had a soul of an ancestor. In other words, their religion is a way of communicating with their ancestors. Last thing we need to know about these stories is they are passed down by generations by storytelling in Aboriginal rituals and ceremonies, since it is forbidden to narrate these stories non-tribal people. In this slide, you can see an Aboriginal ceremony. Now we can talk about Dreamtime stories. The first Dreamtime story that I'm going to mention today is Rainbow Serpent. Rainbow Serpent is an immortal being which creates God. He is known as the giver of life since it shapes the earth and humanity. The connection between snake and the rainbow suggests the cycle of the seasons. It is associated with water since water is essential to life and it symbolizes fertility. The story of the Rainbow Serpent is at the beginning of the dream time, the earth was flat and dry and empty. There were no grass, no rivers, no animals, and no trees. It was a dry and flat land. One day after his sleep, the Rainbow Serpent, laying in the sand all alone, he decided to create more life in the world. He called, "Frogs, come out." And frogs rose out the ground with their bellies full of water they stored. He tickled the frogs until the water burst from their mouth and filled the holes with water. These holes became the rivers and streams we see today. As the water flowed over the land, grass and trees began to grow and fill the land with color. Now that there was grass to eat and water to drink, the Rainbow Serpent created the animals. Some animals lived in the sea, swimming back and forward. Some animals lived in the sky, flying with their friends to distant places. Some animals lived on the land, digging and playing in the sand. The Rainbow Serpent made rules that all animals had to obey. He said, all animals that obey the rule will be rewarded by becoming humans. The animals that disobey the rules will be punished. Some animals followed the rules and were rewarded by being turned into humans. And other animals disobeyed the rules and were turned into the stone that makes mountains. So why is the Rainbow Serpent is colorful? Some believe that since it is the giver of life, the color of it symbolizes the cycle of seasons, like I mentioned earlier. For example, blue as winter, red as summer, yellow as spring, and orange as autumn. And some believe that one rainy day, the Rainbow Serpent got hungry and saw two brothers. He offered them to hide his mouth until rain stops. Brothers, of course, trusted him and climbed his mouth. However, the Rainbow Serpent ate them. After some time, people tried to chase him when they figured out he killed those two brothers. And he didn't want to be caught, so he decided to hide in the only place he knew he would be safe, the sky. And then he decided to try to make people happy again. So he turned his body into a big, beautiful arc of colors. Now, every time just after it rains, you can see the Rainbow Serpent sharing his beautiful colors with people on the ground as his way of saying sorry for taking those brothers. And this is the representation of the Rainbow Serpent in Aboriginal art. The other story is the story of the Bayame and the first man and woman. Bayame is the creator god and sky father. After creating the first man and woman, his world began populated. One year, the rain ceased to fall and drought began. Because of the hunger, a man killed a kangaroo in desperation since it is a totemic and forbidden animal. And he offered some to others, but no one accepted that. So he ate the kangaroo with his wife. Once they are satisfied, they go after their friend to try to persuade him. But they see a coal-black, half-man, half-beast figure over the tree where their friend was laying under. They try to warn him, but the monster kills their friend and goes towards their tribe. The monster was the Yovi, the spirit of the dead, which comes to punish them. Since the creation, it was the first time when Yovi comes to earth, and since they punish a crime. After the man's death, they believe that his soul is in that tree where he was laying. This is where the idea life after death and the spirits of the geographical elements are come from. And the aim of the story is don't be greedy, and the death came to the earth because of the first sin. When we compare this story in theological aspect, it is seen that their first sin is similar with Christianity as well. And this is the art drawing of the Bayaman. And the last story that I'm going to narrate is the story of the sun, moon, and eclipses. Unlike European astronomical stories, the moon is considered as man and sun is a woman in Aboriginal astronomy. Sun woman Valu travels steadily across the sky from the east to west each day, carrying her blazing torch, creating daylight. She dyes herself with red ochre that spreads to the clouds, which stands for the rising of the sun. She lights up a torch, which symbolizes the light of the day. Afterwards, while returning her camp, she falls from the sky. The red ochre with which she dyes herself spread all over the clouds, which symbolizes the sunset. On the other hand, the moon man Ngalinde represents full moon since he is fat and rounded. He is so lazy and needy that he asks his wives, who are Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, and Venus, to bring food. They got sick of his attitude towards them and chop him off, which stands for lunar phases. When he runs away to the sky, follows the sun, and his wives follow him. But he dies because of his wounds for 3 days and rises again as new moon. The chasing is the symbol of the ecliptic path of the planets. On the other hand, rising over and over again is his punishment, which the reader understands that they should not be lazy and they should care about their family, or they will be punished as well. Regardless of the story, moon and sun having an affair when they meet secretly and make love, which stands for eclipse. And lastly, I will focus on dream through Dreamtime stories. When we say dream, sleep-related images come to our minds. However, dreaming or dreamtime is not something sleep-related. The only thing sleep-related is the belief of Aboriginal people communicates to their ancestors through their dreams while they sleep. By means of those dreams, new narratives, songs, dances, and ceremonies are introduced. Yet, it is accepted as Aboriginal religion that indicates a dream of a society, their beliefs and myths. The word dreaming is used to express how life is commenced. It is an event that never ends, and it includes past, present, and the future. Helen Milroy explains dreaming as, I quote, "We are part of the dreaming. We have been in the dreaming for a long time before. We are born on this earth, and we will return to this vast landscape at the end of our days. It provides for us, during our time on earth, a place to heal, to restore purpose and hope, and to continue our destiny," unquote. To conclude, dreaming in Aboriginal culture is a way of being united in terms of dreams, desires, and beliefs for a country, and understanding lands to protect it. Those are my citations, and thank you very much for listening.
Well, thank you, Meyra. It was a great presentation. Thank you. I will open the floor for questions or contributions or any questions. Please feel free. If there are any questions from the floor. Yasin, okay. Please, Yasin.
First of all, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can hear you. We can.
Well, thank you. Mine is not a question, but a comment, actually. First of all, it was a brilliant and illuminating presentation, I think. I myself, being a former student in Çanakkale 18 Mart University, I had not enough knowledge in the particular regard. So we all know that the concept of dream has a huge place in the world of literature and psychoanalysis. And you approach this particular concept from a totally different perspective. And in my humble opinion, you provided us with very valuable information about the importance of dreams in terms of a people's culture, religion, and beliefs. So congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Yasin, for this comment. Maybe I can ask a question if there's no one at the moment. I wonder what happened after colonization process, the settlement, white settlement. Was it a way of destruction to the dreaming stories? How do we reach the dreaming stories after the colonization process? Or should we thank the, colonization process that, we come to learn all these Dreamtime stories? What's your opinion here?
I believe, I think we shouldn't thank the colonization process, because British arrived in Aboriginal land and they destroy all the people in Aboriginal land. They killed like millions or billions of people. So yes, we know these stories today. Maybe we can thank that colonization. However, I believe that I wish we couldn't learn those stories and they could still be alive. So they it was like a bloodshed after the colonization process. So I'm not thanking for that situation.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Any other questions? Ezgi Buruk wants to ask a question, I guess. Please.
First of all, thank you for presenting this informative presentation with us. I myself am informed very much about Aboriginal people, indigenous people. Their closeness to the nature takes my attention. And their myths are close to the Greek myths, but I think they are more believable, in my opinion. And their way of believing generally is close to Christian beliefs. What do you think about these differences and similarities between?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for your question. If you see the heading of my presentation, it was the Aboriginal flag. If I can share, wait, I wanted to show you. And this is Aboriginal flag, and this flag represents the black place symbolizes Aboriginal people, and red place symbolizes Aboriginal land, and the yellow is symbolizing the sun. So they cared the land so much that they put the land, its color, to the flag itself. So yes, they care about their land so much. They don't have any right to have their land, because they believe that they, like I said, land own them. So yes, they care their land so much. And I think about theological part, I believe that Aboriginal beliefs and the dreaming is incomparable. So I think we cannot compare Aboriginal beliefs with Christianity and I don't know, Greek mythology. Since I search for any similarities while preparing this presentation. However, I found that there is no similarity. The only similarity is, for me, it was the forbidden fruit and forbidden animal similarity. But I searched that similarity, but I couldn't find anything specific. So actually, it is incomparable, I believe.
Maybe
Thank you. That was explanatory. I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question. Maybe an additional comment I should make here. The Dreamtime stories sound more eco-friendly compared to the other myths or stories of other cultures. They are bound to nature and they believe they are guardians of nature. They don't own it, so it's not consumer oriented. It's not there's no capitalism here in their perception of the land. But there is a friendly attitude, a protective attitude, a guardianship attitude. So which kind of is a distinctive feature. And this is what they learn from these Dreamtime stories: to respect the land, to protect it, to recycle things in nature, which the, white settlers lack when they first come. Thanks a lot. So there's another question here. Asım Esat wants to ask a question. Please, Asım.
Hello, Hocam. Meyra Hocam, I have a question about, there are these very recent approaches into not only Aboriginal culture, but also African American culture. Yeah, I mean, it is about these topics. The use of Aboriginal and African American culture in songs and movies and, I don't know, popular culture, but by white people. So many people reject this, and what do you think about this? Do you approve it, or you also reject, do you think white people should not use their culture, and do you think that it is some kind of abusement of their original culture, of the Aboriginal culture?
It was a great question. Thank you, by the way. I have a friend who is African American, and I talked that topic with her a few days ago, and I asked this question to her myself, and she told me that yes, sometimes they represent us wrong. However, seeing us on the TV or on the white screen make us proud, because no one knows our history and our culture. If they represent their history and culture correctly, so they accept that representation in a good way. So I believe that I approve that approach. However, they should represent Aboriginal culture or any other culture, true, because in Hollywood, people represent other religion and other cultures, sometimes in with a wrong approach. So if they use it right, so I'm okay with that, because art is a way of teaching when we look at that point of view.
Thank you very much for your explanation. I really like your point. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Asım Esat, for your question. Any questions? Yasin wants to ask another question, I guess. Please.
Again, another question, but a different answer for the previous question. I think this topic is related to power relations again, and the power of representation. And although being objective about a former colony is a contested and a debatable topic, as Meyra said, giving a place in literature is a good thing, actually, if they're not representing them as the other and not appropriating them. It's a good thing, giving a place and helping this culture to be widespread, I think, in my humble opinion. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I guess not. Someone else. Julian Şevval.
Yes.
After that, Mehmet Ali Hocam, you. I will.
So first of all, I want to thank you for your presentation. The topic you chose is very interesting, and Aboriginal people overall are very interesting. I believe in high school, I've read a book by Marlo Morgan called Mutant Message Down Under, I guess, and it was
Yes.
my first time getting to know Aboriginal people, and I found them very interesting. So this term I'm taking a class called The Creation Myths in World Literature, and if I'm not mistaken, you're connecting the Aboriginal culture with dreams. And if I'm not mistaken, the Aboriginal creation myth starts with Karora dreaming the creation, but I probably had better not go into detail. So I think it makes everyone think connect the importance of dreams and the cultural connections. I just wanted to contribute. Thank you.
Thank you. By the way, this was the book you mentioned was the first book I read about Aboriginal indigenous people. Like I was like 13 or 14, and then I studied at Çanakkale and take Azerbaycan's class, and then my interest that's where lying from. So thank you. Mehmet Ali Hocam, if you have any questions.
Now,
Hocam.
thank you very much. Meyra, your presentation was wonderful. So 2 consecutive presentations, Cansu's and yours, have been really impressive for me because, as I said to Cansu, these are the topics that I'm really interested in. And I'd like to say something. Dreams are not always positive. Colonization was also a dream for the whites, whether in a good way or a bad way, whether you like it or not. But it was a dream for them. So they went there to pursue another dream, which wasn't, of course, approvable. So what do you think of that? In the books you have studied, have you come across the white person's dream about finding a new land?
Actually, like today at the beginning of the day, you tell that dreams make us improve because when you can't reach your dream, you keep working. So it was like that actually. The colonizers had a dream and they make that dream come true. However, I believe that it is not the thing with Aboriginal people because they had a dream. They had a dream of an peaceful land with their tribes. However, it wasn't happened for them. So in the book I read, there was a white man. It was a white man narrative, which goes to the Aboriginal land and search their tribes and look for the customs and cultural cultural things about Aboriginal people. However, it was a fictional book. I thought it was not a fictional book, but when I searched it, I found out that it was a fictional book. So there is nothing. The information in that book is not true. So there was nothing about white colonizers' perspective.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
One additional thing, James Cook, the explorer who found and claimed Australian continent, became one of those Dreamtime stories, but as a monster. He is depicted as a monster by the Aboriginal people. So there are Dreamtime stories on James Cook. Right.
Okay. So Azir Hocam, I am stopping to record this session.